All right, welcome to EduStreamTV Day 2, empowering students and media production departments, brought to you by Broadfield and Videoguys. I'm Gary Batan. I'm your lead presenter on EduStream. I also happen to be the president of Broadfield Distributing and Videoguys. And today I'm going to talk to you about one of my alter ego lives, and that is I'm very, very involved in public education. But before we get to that, I want to go over today's schedule. So let's talk about today's schedule. First, we're going to talk about a charitable organization I'm involved in called the For a Bright Future Foundation. It's donating media labs to underserved communities. Then we're going to have Vizrt Production Solutions with Chris Burgos, NETGEAR AV Solutions in Schools with George Burchell, and Digitech doing a educational install with Matt Drabick at Digitech. So I love that. So we've got me doing a thing about something going on in education. We've got two vendors featured, and we've got a dealer end user spotlight. So great content, great stuff. Remember, today is day 2. There's also tomorrow. Sign up at EduStreamTV and get qualified to get prizes. And we welcome your questions, comments, and feedback during all our shows during EduStreamTV. And we want to remind you that if you're watching it live, great. If you're not, you can always catch it on demand for download. So let's jump into today's show. I'm Gary Batan. I'm the president of Broadfield Distributing, but I also have a life that's deeply involved in public education. I ran for the Plainview Old Bethpage Board of Ed trustee position back in 2007-8, served for a dozen years, lost the tight election by 18 votes, came back 4 years later around the time of the pandemic because I felt, I could offer some stability and some insight as an experienced Board of Ed member, and then I've been on there ever since with the district. I'm on my last term, but it's a very exciting thing. I find it's very important to me, public education. So that's what I speak to you about EduStream. But also, I'm involved in a charitable foundation. A friend of mine, Luis Hernandez, who, when we first met, was the president and CEO of Avid, who then has a Black Dragon Capital Group that bought Grass Valley. He was the president of Grass Valley. He's not anymore, but he's still Black Dragon. They still own it. Well, he's got this organization called the For a Bright Future. And he asked me, I'm going to say 5 or 6 years ago, he said, hey, I'd like you to get involved in this organization. I said, cool, I'll get involved in it. And then the next thing you know, I'm not just involved, I'm running the Media Labs. So before I get into the Media Labs, let's talk a little bit about the foundation itself. Luis Hernandez Jr. is the founder of the foundation. You can bring this up full screen, guys, if you want. He started this foundation back in 2011, mainly with the thought to give, scholarships to students in underserved communities. Luis is an amazing story of someone who grew up, on the streets of LA as a poor kid whose parents believed in education, who pushed him to go to school, who went to school, and who's now, been a successful entrepreneur in the fintech business, then in the media business. Now he's back in the media business with Grass Valley. Well, in 2021, he asked me, he said, Gary, I know you're involved with the charity. I got this idea. What if we put media labs in some of these schools we're talking to? Not just give kids scholarships, but give them a chance to learn about our industry, to learn what we're doing, how making video is an opportunity for them, how it's a pathway for them for career success. So, I said, Luis, you had me at hello. I believe so strongly in public education. I thought the fact to be able to help with these labs was in my, it was combining my hobby and my professional life and my public life all in one together in a great way. And I was so excited to be a part of it. So what the media labs are basically, we're looking at underserved communities. I know a lot of you probably on here are probably from some of the wealthier suburban schools throughout the country. You guys have TV production, radio production, media labs, what have you. Well, we're trying to bring that technology to schools that aren't, the kids that don't have that opportunity. So we're going to inner city schools in California, Hollywood, not Hollywood, but, Hollywood, Florida, actually, Florida, Miami Beach. And then we're also doing it in New York. And right now we're working on the Bronx High School of Visual Arts to put a lab in there. But the media labs, this is what we look at with the media labs. Students today, young people, need something to make them want to go to school and feel attached. And we felt this is a career path that they have an opportunity, with the goal being, after taking 2 years or 4 semesters in the media lab, they would qualify for internships or direct jobs in the video production facility or a call letter station or a film producing area, or that they could use that experience and knowledge they have from actually producing video content to help them get into a school, high school to college, be it a secondary school, community college, or a full film school, or wherever you had in between. Because one of the things that we know in our industry is it's an industry that's kind of graying out. So what's happened in the video business is back in the 2000s, we switched from analog to digital, and as a result of that switch to digital, really a lot of things changed. And one of the things that changed is you could do a lot more with less. So there were a lot less opportunities for people to come into the business because the older guys were kind of weeding out the younger guys' jobs. We have this big age and experience gap. Then what happens? The world starts moving to AV over IP and IT-based video workflows, and we get hit with the pandemic. And during the pandemic, it wasn't the old guys who saved the day, it was the young guys who figured out how to produce video using things like NDI, using things like SRT so that you could bring in guests remotely on your shows and stream. And, that really opened the eyes to a lot of people of just, how our industry has a gap in it. So we're really hoping that by training these young creative people who are not getting these opportunities to realize that it's a real industry, there's so many jobs available in the industry, that perhaps we can create a pipeline into our industry while giving kids a great opportunity at the same time, which to me is just the ultimate win-win situation. So we've got 3 labs in place right now. We've got one in California, one in Florida, Miami Beach, and one in New York City and Washington Heights. Now we're working on our 4th lab at the Bronx High School of the Bronx High School of Visual Arts. We're also working with Syracuse and Compton in LA to set up some more labs, and the goal is to scale these labs to get to 10, 20, even 100. It's something I'm very excited about. The labs include, as you can see from the picture, green screens. It teaches the kids video editing. It teaches them video production. And the latest version of the of the labs, we're moving towards teaching them about how the Grass Valley AMP workflows work for true video production, like in a sports facility or a broadcast facility. We're just so excited to be a part of this. It's one of those things that I was very honored when the guy said, would you do a segment on the show about the Fluoride future? Because it's really something close to my heart that has a lot of meaning to me. And I feel that it's great to let people know what's going on, and that there are kids getting the opportunities to learn about this technology who aren't in wealthy neighborhoods. And while I appreciate that we're teaching this stuff in wealthy neighborhoods, and I love it, and our school district is just through the process of redoing their video lab, their video production studio. But, a lot of those kids go on to other stuff, not necessarily in our industry. I really think this is a great opportunity for kids who are, struggling, who are in poorer areas, underserved areas, to really have an opportunity to have a career path that is both can tap into their creativity and pay them nicely. So it's a nice combination. I'm super excited about it. The program is there to augment STEAM, education. We also have other things that I'm going to get into, but, donations fund the program. So I'm going to make a little pitch here. If you're watching our show and you're from a media company or maybe one of the big vendors in our industry, and you're looking to give us a donation, be it an in-kind donation or a direct financial donation, please do to the For a Bright Future. We'll have information on that more, and I think it's in the lower third. But, we definitely welcome donations for stuff like that. And if you're a media executive or someone who's been in the industry a long time and you say, this is a cool idea, Gary, I'd like to be a part of it, reach out to me, reach out to my team, and we'll nominate you. We'll talk to you, and if it's a good fit, we'll nominate you to be on the Media Lab. The Media Lab was a committee is right now up to about a dozen people. It's the biggest it's been in a long time. We're getting a lot done. And one of the things we're trying to do that's real important is we're trying to get our Media Lab curriculum to be dual accredited, which means the kids can get high school credit. They can also get credit through a college. Now, it might not be, a big college like a Ohio State or a Harvard, but, it will be for community colleges, local state colleges. So we're super excited about that. I want to talk a little bit more about some of the other stuff the For a Bright Foundation does. They do their scholarship program. Hundreds of kids submit essays every year, and we have a group of volunteers who read through those essays and put them together and nominate for who will get the actual scholarships. There's STEM scholarship, Dr. Emma LaRue scholarship, healthcare, veterans and families, single parent, fintech, creative arts. If you are a young person looking to go to college and you want a scholarship, by all means apply now. You take your shot. Next, we have an ambassador program. That's where we really teach students from the schools. Oftentimes, it's a school with a media lab in it, to be a leader. What leadership is: public speaking, presenting yourself in a professional manner, to not only represent yourself more professionally, but to be an ambassador, a goodwill ambassador for the For a Bright Foundation program, and to tell people about it and to help us, create awareness and raise more funds. So the ambassador program is a very cool part of the program as well. Once again, you can contact For a Bright Future at forabrightfuturefoundation.org. Please go over there. You can make donations. You can do all kinds of cool stuff. Once again, I thank you for letting me, guys. Thanks for letting me talk a little bit about this. It was really not a rehearsed script. It was something you guys came to me that I really loved the idea to do it. So to everyone, volunteer if you can. I love giving back to my community. I do it through the Plainview Old Bethpage Board of Ed. I love giving back to people with a potential link to our industry, which is the For a Bright Future. And I'm glad that some of you find the EduStream educational, and we'll take a little bit back from that as well. Before we get to Chris Burgos from Vizrt, there's a video that the kids down in the North Miami Beach Media Lab put together. So I said, why not show it on the show and let's see what these kids have done. So I'm going to check out of here. James is going to come on. Enjoy the video, folks. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your EduStream programming.
I decided to enroll in the Media Lab because I've always had an interest in editing, and I thought this was a way where I could really expand my skill and knowledge of everything that goes into it, from sound mixing to coloring and everything else I haven't been able to have before.
So originally, I joined the Media Lab because I was really into photography and I've always wanted to step into the realm of videography. And seeing all the new tech and everything that we were able to have here at the library, I realized that I did want to be a part of this movement.
Before I didn't know what to do in my life. I just like to lift weights, do skating. But now I like to film while I was lifting my weights. I like to edit the videos that I take. Then when I know that the library had an editing club, I just wanted to join it.
I've always wanted to code games and create cutscenes for my favorite games like Dark Souls and Elden Ring, and mostly create trailers for them. It's always been my dream to be a part of these big projects in a deeper way.
Learning how to edit my own videos is going to help me a lot in the future. Because camera-wise, I wouldn't say I'm like completely well off, but I'm pretty good at it. But I did learn. I took photography for a while, so I do know a lot about cameras, but I never really got into DaVinci or anything to edit video. So being able to use DaVinci and actually learn how to properly use it really helped me.
Key moment was when we had the cinema that's in the library and it showcased all our videos. I found that really fun and also very funny because we all got to laugh at each other's clips, and it's really nice.
Something I learned in this class that I didn't really expect to learn is proper teamwork. I've been working in groups at school, doing projects and classwork, but the media team really showed out when it came to teamwork and film producing. It made me feel at home.
All right, so again, thank you to Gary for setting that up. We're talking about building media labs for schools, whether it's for morning announcements or if it's in the theater room or whatever other place that you want to have video playing. I did an interview with Chris Burgos from Vizrt because they have something for pretty much every part of that workflow. They offer PTZ cameras, they offer audio mixers, they offer video switchers, and we talked a lot about NDI as well and how you can utilize that across your campus. And we even talked about some case studies. So let's me stop talking about the interview and just play that interview for you. And I hope you enjoy, and then we'll have some more great content after that. Thanks. Hey everybody, my name is James. I'm one of the hosts here at EduStreamTV, and today I'm super excited to be talking about what is going on with Vizrt. And we are joined with Chris Burgos from Vizrt. Hey Chris, how are you doing?
James, how's it going, man?
I'm doing all right. Before we get right into it, why don't you introduce yourself and a little bit of who Vizrt is if our audience does not know?
Sure. I'm Chris Burgos. I've been now with Vizrt, pre-merger now, a little almost 10 years. We are an organization focused on live production video, streaming, all kinds of content from the very top of the food chain to major sports networks and news, all the way down to the education and even the free streaming market. We are really focused on this flavor of technology that changes what you think you can do and really elevates your game at all different pieces, of production.
I think that's great. And speaking of elevating your game, I know we wanted to start off by talking about a couple case studies here. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this case study at Stratford?
So with Stratford upon Avon, we were looking at, the college was trying to look at what they were going to do to upgrade their TV facilities. And I think a lot of organizations today, when they're making that upgrade, especially educational, are saying, well, I want to make an upgrade, but I need something that's going to be also relevant to the future. And that's what the team at Stratford upon Avon was looking at. They really wanted to upgrade their radio education facility, their TV setup, and give students sort of a hybrid. They want to both experience the legacy of production as well as what's going on in the next generation. And so they worked with Vizrt for the TriCast for the live production. They're using NDI audio, NDI video and audio to sort of make their connections. And really the big sort of selling point for them was future proofing. And as we at Vizrt look at it, we continue to do development on all elements of production, whether that's the audio space, whether that's the video space, whether that's our IP capabilities. And so those students are working with something that is, to their point, both allows them to work with legacy in terms of SDI, but also prepares them for the transition into IP.
Coming from a personal standpoint of view, I really appreciate that aspect too, because when I was going through college, NDI was becoming more popular. We actually had a TriCaster at my college, and we also had some legacy media stuff too, and we learned, but then we were also using the cutting edge TriCaster, which is, like you said, being continually upgraded upon. And I think that it's great that the students are using the equipment. So it's not just for the school's productions, it's also a teaching experience for the students. So I think that is a really great feature.
And I always talk about this. I tell a real true story, and we'll get it to FIU in a second here. But my legacy in the organization, within my first meeting at the time New Tech, I was listening to Dr. Cross talk about NDI. So it was October of 2015 where we were developing this behind the scenes. And so you can track my time with the company the same pace at NDI's development. We released that piece. It was supposed to come out, I want to say, it was like a Christmas. We were always talking about Santa's going to bring IP and NDI to us. And then sort of we unveiled it at NAB, and it was always going to be this thing that continued to grow and grow and grow. So we got another piece of information here that I definitely want to cover, but we're going to talk about FIU right now. And here's another organization that it's a college, but we have sort of a different perspective, right? FIU was really looking at sort of their athletics department and what that meant to the video production world. And I think this is important when you're an education institution, right? Sometimes it's the TV program, sometimes it's the sports program that sort of allows you guys to both teach the students, but get the funding and make this thing happen. And with FIU, they were looking at TriCaster for switching, 3Play for replay. They're also using IP. But the main goal was centralize and streamline that live sports production because they have multiple venues. They wanted to eliminate the need to have to transport all the equipment from event to event. If you're a college, you know this pain very well. A lot of times these guys have a cart, it's like a golf cart. You load all the equipment on, then you got to drive it from, oh, we got to go from the stadium. Oh, we got to go to the baseball field. Oh, we have to go to the rink. Depending on the sports your college covers, it can be a lot. And obviously that gets minimized when we can do things in IP. Here we see, we're looking at their control space, but it doesn't just have to stop at the big sports. We enhance the broadcast capabilities and get that to things like volleyball, soccer, things we wouldn't traditionally associate with major programs because we can make that investment as a college, as a high school, and actually use it in multiple spaces. I always love that that's part of the goals of NDIs. I can do more once I have that piece.
No, I couldn't agree more, no pun intended, with NDI being able to have your video on the network and then be accessed from anywhere else on the network. I couldn't agree more. You can put a camera in each classroom if you really wanted to, but then yeah, if you want to put a couple cameras into the football field, you want to put a couple cameras into the theater. With NDI, you can route them all back to your production room, and you don't have to move your production equipment all over. NDI just makes things super, super easy. So I couldn't agree more.
And in the contemporary space, I think it gives students the opportunity to learn a lot of different tools, right? We're learning about the production. We're talking about video. We're talking about replay. These are things that have been going on for many, many years. And so there's a pace and cadence to how we teach that. But then we add the new technology element to it, and we're teaching students about IP and distribution and streaming. These are all layered in pieces that have their whole own disciplines to them. I like that it's becoming multidisciplinary in that respect. It gives students more angles to learn, and it also gives organizations more routes to incorporate new students. We might not have ever looked at somebody in the IT computing space to be part of our production team, but now because the technology is there, these students can also be rolled in, and it's always about finding the thing that both motivates the student and works within their strengths. And so I look at what these organizations have done, and sort of we have a lot of these both in the past and coming up where people are using us more and more besides just for doing the TV show or doing the sports event. They're also using it as that educational tool to sort of uplift their students.
No, and I totally agree. Before we get on into some of the solutions, we're talking about students and educating the students. I want you to throw in a quick plug here for Viz University and how students can go and learn not just how to use TriCasters, but learning about, again, the basic IP, AV over IP workflows and NDI, and just kind of live streaming in general. So why don't you talk about that before we talk about some of the solutions Viz offers?
So VizU is an amazing tool that covers the entire gambit of what we have as an organization. Both so as a student, you get access to this. So when your school or program purchases one of our systems, as long as you have a school email address, you have access to what we do at VizU. And it could be something as simple as how to operate the TriCaster, or something as complex as working with the arena programs, working with Viz Engine. These are the kinds of systems that they use at the very top tier of broadcast, whether that's sports, whether that's live production, news automation. As an organization, VizRT has such a wide range of different customers we serve that learning this information, applying this information at the college level could oftentimes get you in a position where you could work for a major broadcaster, or you could work for a major streamer. You could work in a position where, today Twitch is a powerhouse, right? Being able to use something like some of our new software solutions might put you in a position to be better equipped there.
No, I couldn't agree more. And being able to offer that to students and get these certifications is a great thing that Viz offers. All right, so let's get into some of the solutions that VizRT offers. And you guys basically have an answer to every piece of the puzzle So let's start off with the PTZ cameras that Viz offers. You guys are, like you said, you guys basically pioneered NDI. So we know that these cameras are going to be good with NDI. Why don't you tell us some of the other features with these cameras?
So when we looked at the PTZ market, we knew that we needed to offer something that was easy, especially for things like high schools and colleges. And so what we really focused on was like that one cable setup. These are PoE enabled. They can work in a power over Ethernet environment. That's important. They can also work with the new smart tracking features. This is something that we recently enabled because as an organization, we're listening to feedback. We do get that capability to work with that high level of video, but also incorporate audio. So if you're not doing traditional if you're doing an audio over IP or not, or leveraging XLR, you can work both of those instances with the PTZ cameras. And the ease of integration is important. We get it in both black and white. We give you the plate so you can push this on whatever element you want. So you can put it hanging on the ceiling or something like that. We look at our customer base, and that's where we focus our PTZ camera. This is for those educational institutions. We sort of really looked at the use cases and said, what does a PTZ camera look like for you? That's what we designed.
Yeah, you're talking about easy integration, and you mentioned that they're PoE. And again, to re-emphasize with NDI and PoE, you can get power, video, and now audio and control all through a single cable. And I think that I just don't want to, sugarcoat that. I want to put emphasis on that all through one cable. So that is great. And since we're speaking of audio, you guys have a very cool announcement. Why don't you tell us a little bit about VizConnect Audio?
So the VizConnect Audio is a brand new product we just released at the time of this, and we looked at what was changing in the audio space. So we've done a tremendous amount of NDI deployment, and in the NDI sort of encapsulation, the different data it brings along, audio has always been there. But the last year effectively of NDI releases have been expanding what audio does, because more and more people want to leverage NDI in every aspect. And so the VizConnect Audio is us giving a hardware solution to solve that. So again, simple integration. It's remote capable because it has NDI bridge. So I can actually work with this in a remote environment, in a cloud environment. It has 8 channels of audio in, 4 channels of audio out, and it's designed for that same low latency that NDI does for your production flexibility. So I can, as you can see in the picture, there's a faceplate on it where I can actually, with a little monitor, I can go in and see the levels on each of the signals. I have a web UI I can use to actually control what's going on. And with that level of IP behind it, I can do some really slick stuff where I could feed it a comm line and then break that comm line out on the other side of the production. So I can have my high school team or my college team working with comms in a totally remote environment without needing like an extra server, extra service spun up in the background. So Connect Audio is really fitting into a lot more spaces than people will expect. There are tons of options in the IP space, but we know people who love the ease of NDI setup. And now we've made a device that says, hey, you're working with a traditional audio board. You have a traditional A1 setup. You can actually take that audio into the Connect Audio and excuse me, into the Viz Connect Audio and now distribute that over the NDI network just as easy as we do video. So this is going to be a major game changer, especially now that it's out in the wild for people who want to expand their video capabilities and their audio capabilities and mix and match those.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier that 2015-ish is when NDI came out, and that you are constantly paving new roads with what you can do with AV over IP, and now we got to put emphasis on the A in AV over IP, and I think that this is a perfect example of VizRT's commitment to AV over IP and pioneering the road. So next, I wanted to talk about the TriCaster family. And the great thing about the TriCasters is there really is a TriCaster for every workflow, every budget, every amount of cameras that you need, every amount of MEs, layers that you need, inputs. It doesn't matter. So why don't you tell us about the TriCaster family?
Yeah, so if you're unfamiliar with VizRT and this is your first time, working with us, the TriCaster is really the cornerstone of what we do as an organization. This is your all-in-one live production environment where this is a hardware or software solution, because we're now offering it both in the cloud and in other forms, and we'll talk about in a little bit, that allows you to take in multiple cameras, produce multiple feeds. So I can stream, I can record, I can actually do, like, for instance, what we're doing on our environment here, you could produce a feed for a call-in platform like Teams or Zoom. You have audio capabilities, you have video playback capabilities. There is a lot of density of what a TriCaster enables. And this is all that one live switching environment, but it is so powerful and there's so many tools underneath the hood. And I think of something like, the flexibility of scalable, which in our case is a TriCaster may have 8 inputs, but in an IP world, you could easily swap camera 7 that's in a boardroom to camera 7 that's on a field. You're never really locked into just the physicality of it. And that is sort of the next level that what we do from a live production space is it's the option you want is always there. You can never really ask a question of a TriCaster that it can't do because we really load these things with so many features. And James, to your point before, we have so many different options. We have things that are totally software, both now accessible locally or in the cloud, and we have a whole wealth of different systems going up the chain all the way up to a 44-channel system.
You mentioned that, yes, we are using a TriCaster TC1 Pro in our studio, and we're using an NDI PTZ camera here. We're using NDI to extract the Teams call to get you into this box here, and we're also using NDI screen capture to get the PowerPoint into this box up here. So yeah, this entire show is being operated with a TriCaster and NDI. So yeah, we're big fans of the TriCasters, and it is really the sky's the limit. This is a fairly simple layout that we're doing, but you can do way more complex things with this. And I'll give one more shout out to VizRT. We're actually using VizFlowX for our graphics too. So whenever a lower third comes up, that is done all through VizFlow. It's super customizable and very easy to pick up. Now, we were talking about how the VizRT family also has products for sports production, and of course, that would include instant replay. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the 3Play systems?
So the 3Play is, prior to coming to Viz and NewTek, one of the ways I cut my teeth in the field. I did a lot of sports. And what your 3Play gives you in a single solution is ease of use, multiple channels of recording. I can play back angles very easily. So even when I take a recorded clip, like I make a replay on a given angle, in a 3Play, I can actually switch those angles in the playout. And all of this is easily driven by the control surface. It is so slick and simple to leverage when you're actually working in a production. And then the last piece that I really look at from an ease of production space is the ability to tag. Coming from the environment where we had to hit a keyboard and change all the elements of, let's put the player's name, let's put the player's jersey. This all took a lot of time. Now with the tagging system, I'm able to really quickly append, what the play was, what time it happened. And even a high school student who's never touched the sports before can operate a 3Play. And then the last piece that makes it unique harkens back to what we do in live production as sort of the people in TriCaster and other parts of the production. You actually have the capability to use it like a basic switcher in the background. It can operate in a flexible output configuration where output A is doing something in output B, and I can actually make a transition and have them bounce between 1 and 2. So my operators could do something like queue playlist and set up a secondary playlist and actually throw like an animation, maybe the school's logo, in between the two and operate on a single output. Or I could have those two outputs playing to your production truck in any capacity. So 3Play builds upon what we do in IP and video production and incorporates a lot of cool elements that I think once you're in front of it, you can really gain an appreciation for how it can elevate your game. And for high schools and colleges, I think people think that the bar is really low for what you guys can produce, but these tools allow you to operate the same way some of the largest organizations do and have that really fine polish to your production.
I couldn't agree more. And we keep alluding to this, when a high school or a college gets something like a 3Play and they let the students use it, if they do decide to go into a career in sports, production, this is going to be the equipment that they're using when they're working for ESPN or whatever sports production company is out there. And so it's great in the school. And again, you offer these classes on the 3-play system too. Like, yes, sometimes it can seem overwhelming at first, but Viz goes the extra mile to give you VizU, and I think it's just great. Now, we mentioned that there are TriCasters for every budget and every workflow. You guys have some new and exciting products that are available, including the TriCaster Vision, and we'll get into the TriCaster Mini S as well. The TriCaster Vision is your new flagship TriCaster. It's super customizable, and it's a real powerhouse. You want to talk about that for a little bit?
So the Vision is the new flagship for what we do at VizRT, and I think it really provides a unique angle for live production in a couple ways. First, it's got 44 input channels. It's 44 4K channels. All of the feeds it produces are available in IP, so we produce them in NDI. So it's got 8 output channels. It's got 3 stream encoders. And the biggest, coolest thing with what we do in the Vision is that we're finally bringing some of these AI tools into what is happening in the production space. Now, no need to fear, it's not taking anyone's jobs away. It's actually really slick. It has automatic gaze correction, which would mean that as long as you're, contributor coming into something like a Teams or Zoom call, as long as their face is anywhere in front of the camera, it will automatically redraw their eyes so that they're looking directly at the camera. On the production side, it can seem a little weird, but for the viewer at home, it just looks like the person is always engaged, always talking with it. It's a really slick tool. The other thing we're doing is allowing for a specialized keyer. So for instance, I'm at my home office, but with the Vision, with the AI keyer, you could brand me with a bunch of Viz logos behind me. When traditionally we would use that in a green screen environment, now with the AI keyer, we have that capability. We talked about it here. Now VizFlowX is being really ubiquitous. VizFlowX actually comes with the Vision, so you get a license of VizFlowX for a time frame on the Vision, and this is really important because Flowx is super customizable, easy to use, and it's all web driven. I don't need a separate program. I can create my graphics, I can operate my graphics, and with something like the Vision or your guys' TriCaster, I can actually go either way where the TriCaster can trigger the graphics, or we can have the Flowx operator trigger the graphics on either side. So ease of use and production is paramount. And then this is the first time that we offer a TriCaster in flexible models. We're offering it in a 0 SDI configuration for people who are really, really deep into IP. We offer it up to a 16 base SDI configuration, so people who have a much more traditional workflow. And we're always doing that hybrid in between. And so the Vision sort of marches forward on the same path we have been going with different changes in what's happening in the world from a production perspective. Those needs are growing, and we designed the Vision to meet those needs of today. So that's at the very top tier, but I am in love with the Vision, and I have access to one in a rack that I do because I'm very much about doing the remote production, doing those sort of cloud productions. But the Vision is a really sweet machine that I think people are going to get more out of it than they would expect.
No, I couldn't agree. I think everything that you just said can be summarized in it's a true powerhouse. The TriCaster Vision is totally customizable to whatever workflow you need. Like you said, you can be IP, you can be SDI, you can be a little bit of both. It doesn't matter. The TriCaster Vision is a great solution. Now, on kind of the other end of the spectrum, we also have the TriCaster Mini S, which is just the TriCaster software that you can put onto a computer or a laptop. There are certified computers that you can put this on. And this is also very new and exciting for VizRT. Why don't you tell us a little bit about TriCaster Mini S?
So we're talking about education, and we're on all sides of what production can do. Mini S is that first offering for full 4K production, the ability to put this on a laptop or a desktop, James, you pointed out astutely that we have some certified machines. There's integrated graphics capabilities, and we're actually bringing some of the features from some of the higher end products down into the Mini with some AI enhanced audio capabilities. This all is part of the new initiative that we want anybody working with us, whether they are at a basic level just coming into video production, or they're at the very top level, to be interoperable. We want somebody whose first experience is a Mini S to be able to grow all the way to a Vision or all the way to a Vector in the cloud. And so what we're seeing now in Mini S is that ease of use, ease of entry point, right? I can get in on a simple subscription, or I can pay up for that upfront license. And I now have the full production powerhouse of a TriCaster on something that I can deploy in my backpack. And I really think this is going to change the game in a lot of respects, because a lot of people have been using software-driven systems, especially in the last 5 years. They're using something that they probably use for free, and they started their business with that. But we are elevating the game by giving you the full TriCaster capability in that live production.
No, I think that's great. We talked about earlier today being able to go anywhere on campus. And it's great that, yeah, you have the ability to have NDI anywhere, but then to also, pick up a small desktop M4250 switch, putting TriCaster Mini S on your laptop. Now you can have an NDI network anywhere you go. And like you said, it will fit into a backpack. So I think the TriCaster Mini S is just a great solution for schools in particular. Chris, I want to say thank you so much for joining us. If our viewers have any questions, want more information on pricing or picking the right TriCaster or the right PTZ camera for your school, absolutely feel free to give us a call at 800-323-2325. We have a network of local integrators that we can get you in contact with. So absolutely give us a call at 800-323-2325. Chris, I kind of like to take this from Gary. I like that when we have a guest on, we always give the guest the last word. So if there's anything that you want to say to our audience about VizRT and the education market, the floor is yours.
I think if you are looking to get a new system and work with an organization that is elevating what's capable, helping your students get ahead of the game, both educationally, but also maybe in the workplace, finding a job. I can speak to this directly. I learned TriCaster in college, and that allowed me to work almost right away. And I worked with a lot of organizations, like I was able to work with USTA Tennis. I was able to work for sports leagues. If you wanted to give your students the best bet to graduate and have an opportunity, working with VizRT is one that you can bank on. And it both sings personally to me, but with so many schools we're working with today. So if you're going to spend $1 and you're looking at, well, what do I get out of this? Beyond just the technology, VizRT is giving students the capability to go and pursue careers.
I think that is well said. Chris, again, thank you so much for joining us. To our viewers, stay tuned for more content coming up next. Thanks. Huge thank you to Chris for joining us to talk about TriCasters and PTZ cameras and NDI and all of that great stuff. If you are looking to get more information on maybe which TriCaster is right for you or which PTZ camera is right for you, absolutely feel free to give us a call at 800-323-2325 to figure out which one is the right one for your media lab. And again, we were talking about PTZ cameras, audio systems, we're talking about switchers, we're talking about 3-play machines, and all of those devices can communicate over the network. And so what we did was we reached out to John Henkel at NETGEAR, because we are big fans of the NETGEAR M4250 line of network switches, and we wanted to essentially game that out. How do we get not only our NDI devices and AV over IP devices on our local network in the Media Lab, but then also how do we get that to communicate with classrooms throughout the entire campus? So we did an interview with John Henkel, and we will play that for you now.
And welcome, welcome, welcome back to EduStream. Today's show about NETGEAR AV switches. We've got one of my favorite industry people here, John Henkel, Product Marketing Director for NETGEAR AV. And I want to start the show with what I tell people about everything, and that is NETGEAR AV switches are our #1 tech support recommendation. They are our #1 solution for NDI. I would say that our support and our phone calls about NDI fell by about 75% once your switches were approved. We started shipping them, and now those switches go far beyond NDI. They're a whole world of AV over IP. But John, welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you. Great to be here. It's been a little while since we've been talking, Gary. So good to come back and see you.
Now, one of the things, we've always been NDI. We do NDI November. I think you were on one of our NDI November shows a couple of years ago. We're still going to be very NDI for schools, but AV over IP is a much bigger, broader spectrum. So because we could be talking to K-12 or some people in higher, big colleges and universities, why don't you go over some of the AV over IP highlights and why it's so important for both the pro AV and the pro video businesses?
Yeah, thanks. There's so many different kinds of formats and so much out there. So some of the people we work with, and that's where we've made our name, I think, is really making sure that we listen to the industry and talk to all these different organizations. Sure, NDI really got us a big name and through a lot of promotion of you guys. Thank you. But through SDVOE, we're a founding member of that organization. You'll see IPMX, of course, now building off of SIMT 2110. And we'll talk about that too coming up. All these different formats, Dante Audio, Ravenna, ES67. We're members of a lot of other organizations too for some of the sales groups and things like that. So we've just really tried to make sure that we listen and build these switches to accommodate all these different flavors of AV over IP.
And you've got a lot of flavor of switches. And I don't want to have this be a show about the switches themselves, but I want to bring this up full screen just so our audience can understand that, you've got switches to put in a little lab where the lab's going to be on its own, or large switches that can run a whole enterprise and be networked together. One of the things that I think is important that people, especially in education, I want to understand is they don't have to replace their whole network to add a NETGEAR AV over IP switch. In fact, we know with some of the schools we work with, we'll suggest that they add one of your switches just for that, the AV over IP component, then grow bigger and attach to their network. What happens inevitably is we get the call saying we want one of the bigger switches. This is better for everything. But I want to stress to those IT and tech people within the schools that you could just roll out a single switch running the AV component, whether it be pro AV or pro video, and then you can grow and attach to the other ecosystems very easily. And you're your own ecosystem as well, which we'll go into. But talk to that a little bit, because I think that's one of the fears, especially we see in education. The IT guys start worrying, oh no, not another switch. We've been trained for years and we're certified on Cisco. Sorry, but you know what I'm saying. What do we do?
Yeah, I mean, we get the question all the time, and we have information been working on for how to integrate better an AV system with whatever it is, Cisco or whoever. Yeah, I mean, we're not just making little rinky-dink AV switches. We come with 30 years of networking experience to this equation, and so what we did is just make it easier to configure for AV people. But behind it, still a fully managed, full up, high-end switch. So yes, we actually recommend you also do create your own separate AV network. That's been a question for years. Don't converge them. Keep the AV network separate. It's going to be easier to troubleshoot and also make your IT people happier as well. And if you need to bridge them, you can easily bridge it. We have people that can help figure out how to make that work. And we are fully, like I say, full-fledged managed switch, layer 2, layer 3, whatever you need. We can take care of that. And as you want to grow, like you mentioned, yes, we have different models and we have more coming up that'll do the top of the rack and do all of that traffic for you as you aggregate that traffic back to the rest of the network. We can do all that stuff for you. We can help plan all that too. So don't worry about all that.
Cool. And you also now have pro Wi-Fi access points, which I think is important for education because they're so Chromebook, oriented of the Wi-Fi everywhere. And I think, It's just great that that's now a part of your whole system for those people in the pro AV, pro video world.
Yeah, people kind of forget about some of that on the business side. We made our name at NETGEAR in general on high-end residential works, and those are great products as well, the Orbi and things like that. But for a business network to be have the same coverage in some ways and just be more flexible for what you're doing, we have pro Wi-Fi access points. We're focusing on Wi-Fi 7. That's the most recent
Yep.
Wi-Fi version out there, right? So we have a couple of those. And the other thing I point out, these are available in the AV channel. So you're not going to find some of these on Amazon. We have different products for business than we do for home. These are purpose built for businesses to get you the best, fastest Wi-Fi you can get, especially for large crowds as well. You can accommodate more and more connections. And that's what we have for Wi-Fi offerings.
Yeah, so for schools especially, they want to reach out and work with a local integrator IT company that can buy these products through the specialized channels and get them over there. But also if you're a reseller who sells to schools and maybe your primary business was just whiteboards or, audio systems or projectors, this is a good thing to look into and learn about. And one of the things that we have this slide of all your pro AV manufacturer partners up here, which I think is important because it shows that you guys are incredibly open and flexible. And
Absolutely. We
I'm
learned
just
that
laughing
early
because
on.
I've never seen such a full screen of logos that are too small for me to read in my life. But keep doing your job, John, because this used to be about 8 logos at one time, right?
Right. I've seen that grow and grow. It's how do you best display that? I don't know. One big slide. It's impressive. I know. And that's the team working on just making sure we are listening. That's the whole key to this. That's the key to our success is being able to be open. We have special profiles for many of these different manufacturers, not all of them. Some of them just operate on the standard video profile or audio profile. But we know that those things are unique and some things need certain settings tweaked a certain way. Or I know some people are using like a switch for Dante only and then doing video on a different switch. You don't have to do that with us. You can use the same switch for some of those configurations. So that's why we're making sure that we listen to the marketplace. We take all these manufacturers. This is like over 400 right now, and we have more coming.
So I'm going to bring up this broadcast IP standards. I think it's great you dropped, Dante, we're talking about NDI. A lot of IT people, especially in education, not to put educational IT people down, but I know you guys are protecting, very protective, and you have a little security things that go beyond a lot of corporations. But one of the things I love about this when you started talking about it is if I've got a 24-port switch, I can assign ports for Dante, for NDI, for Zixi, whatever I want to do. And it's not where I have to go down to like code level and type stuff in. It is color coded, so simple, so easy. And in fact, I know we're going to go into it a little bit, but I love the Engage software you guys have done. And we've done some whole shows on it, but it's actually a GUI for setting up all this complexity that I started to talk to. So I want to really harp on the NETGEAR AV and the Pro AV, Pro Video stuff we do. So this slide, it's a big slide. I want you to bring it up full screen, and guys, you can download it, but just talk about these different formats and why AV over IP isn't just NDI anymore.
No, I think, and the reason I put this in here, it's a lot of text. I know a lot of tiny text, but you can download it. I think I sent you guys a PDF as well you can use. There's a lot of good stuff here. Even if you're a seasoned IT professional, this is important because it shows you the difference in the evolution of all this from SMPTE, the old days, which I certainly remember. I was one of those guys in early broadcast with all these different kinds of cables carrying all these different signals. Now it's all over IP. And of course, the timing of all this stuff is critical, especially for broadcast. NDI is taking care of a lot of that, which is great. And Dante has helped, SRT, all these different formats help in certain ways. And then people are looking at SMPTE 2110 now as like the gold standard, where you really got to be careful about setting up your network the proper way. You have things called a grandmaster clock and your other transparent clock, your boundary clocks. They all have to make sure that those are set up correctly to make sure that audio video is in sync when it's transmitted around the facilities.
John, we're seeing SMPTE 2110 starting in some broadcast type stuff, but the broadcast people even are going to it aren't going like rip everything out, put in 2110. They're more doing tests, proof of concepts, a little area over there. So I don't want to scare schools yet. I'm going to say that 2110 is really not for education. I mean, maybe if you're Ohio State or Penn State, you're putting in a stadium, yes. But for schools and education, I think they're more NDI, Dante, SRT. I think that's where our educators are mainly going to be playing in. Would you agree with that?
I think so. You're certainly, if they make it a little bit easier for 2110 to be implemented, that'll help in some cases. But yeah, it's a little bit more daunting perhaps. But I think NETGEAR is making that easier by offering switches that are, number one, less expensive. And then again, like you mentioned with the Engage software, our AVOS, making it easier to configure then. So those two will help, I think, bring a few more people into the 2110 world. But you don't have to use that for sure. There's plenty of people who are not using that and getting great results with NDI, like you mentioned, or SRT.
Cool. And this next slide you put together, I think it's real important because I know, like for colleges, they're going to want to have multiple. They're going to have a studio. They might have an equipment room. They might have a control room, and all those switches can be tied together. And then you can have a switch on each one that's the appropriate switch for that room. And they can all be tied together into a core or a master switch. That's a little above my pay grade. In like easy language, explain to how a school would go about doing that. Let's say they had a studio, they had an equipment room, and maybe they had a control room that was adjacent to the basketball arena.
Yeah, I mean, it illustrates it here from the traditional sense of those key areas where you're probably going to have the different facilities, and those had to be closer together with the old coax days of cabling.
Oh,
And those
yeah.
can now be, they can be moved anywhere. They can be almost miles away, really, across a WAN. People are working on some of those things too. But generally, these things are old ways with having cables connecting them all, and now it's just over a network. That's the real simple explanation for all that. The key to that is all these clocks. So there has to be something like, a time-based corrector in some ways, or a gen lock in facilities back in the old days. You're going to have a master clock somewhere to make sure that when you send those audio and video signals out, they're going to stay in sync with each other, from the camera to the audio mixer to the console to the teleprompter, everything. So that's why you want to look at the system and have what's called the Grandmaster clock. If you have one of those in your facility, great. Our switches can adhere to that and time everything and sync everything up through that. If you don't have one of those, you can use one of our switches that has that capability built in. We have 2 at the moment. More of those are coming. So we can set up that sync and that clocking across your network and have all the other switches below it, which can be a mix of those different switch types we showed earlier, 4250 series, 4350 series. And then we can work on all that. We can set all that up for you easier through our Engage software. So we'll set up the Grandmaster clock, boundary clocks, all this kind of stuff. We just set it up for you automatically. You don't have to worry about it. And then everything is going to be in sync. Sounds easy.
And we're going to go into a case study on the University of Leeds. But before we do it, I know we get into this later in the presentation, but I think it's very important to say that one of the things that separates you guys from the competition, the rest of the switches out there in the whole world, has nothing to do with hardware or software to me. It has to do with the pre-sales and support that you can get from NETGEAR directly. So if you are an IT administrator in your school, you can call us. We'll put you in contact with the folks at NETGEAR. You can teach them directly. These guys will lay out a whole network topography for you. They'll go over the gotchas. The more information you give them, the better they'll get back. But you guys are phenomenal. And we know we've had some schools like Leeds, wasn't one we work with, but we've had other schools where you guys have done like consulting work that would have been, tremendously expensive, but is insanely valuable. And it was just to put in, like a 48 port switch. But you guys are so good at what you do. And I just think that service and sales and technical expertise and your ability to train people, and the fact that you even offered certified training. So if I do want to be a school that does this, I can set up a class and teach my kids how to get certified if it's something, because we love students using the stuff. But also, as my IT department, can make sure someone's certified for this. This is not rocket science, but once you're certified, it's easy to begin with. When you're certified, there's virtually nothing you can't do. So kudos to you guys for that knowledge part and sharing that knowledge with the world. We'll get that into a little bit more. Let's talk about this University of Leeds case study, because you guys really knocked that one out of the park. Yeah, so this is one of several colleges, universities that we've taken care of. And it's the same kind of problems, the same challenges you're finding out. They're seeing AV being used more and more across the campus. They want to make sure that IT staff and AV people can actually implement this on their own and figure it out. And then scalability. Scalability is one of the #1 factors for going over to a system over IP, for sure,
because you can easily add it whenever you need to. Add an endpoint, add an encoder or decoder, add a display, a camera, whenever you need to. And that's something they want to make sure they updated their system for.
Yeah,
So
John,
that's what
I
they
just
did.
want to say the scalability of AV over IP, it's a whole new world. It's not
Right.
like people have to be crawling around in the walls and stuff. You want to add a room and it's on your network, you add the room and it lights up and everything sees everything. So sorry to interrupt you. You're on a roll. Keep going.
No, those are it. Those are the key points. And you see a lot more of this than I do. I mean, I'm a marketing guy.
Yep.
You're actually in the trenches seeing this stuff. So that's important. And I think people realize that now when you're looking at a new system, you might as well put it in AV over IP. Unless it's
Yep.
one conference room, then you might as well. But for universities especially, you want to do that. So what did they do? They ended up looking at our M4250 line with that smooth front face, the ports in the back, and all that stuff, to make sure that we use some of the goodness that we offer. So IGMP Plus is something we developed and delivered on our switches to make sure that the signals don't go across the network blindly. When that's something IT people got a kind of a bad taste in their mouth with, when other switch manufacturers they turn it on and then you plug in an encoder and it gets flooding the network across the entire campus. That's the reason you want to use our switches, and also make sure it's a separate AV network. Those are huge. We do things like some others do with auto lag, auto trunk as well, to make it easier to add on more switches as you try to get tons of those streams going across the campus for multiple classrooms. You have to then go from switch to switch. And we have features in our software to help do that automatically. So you plug in two switches. Oh, you want to lag those or connect those together. If you don't know what lag means, or trunk them together. So the VLANs you set up, the segregation for certain kinds of traffic, will then be replicated across the entire network. And those are just simple little things for us, but boy, that's a huge help for any network administrator, especially certainly an AV person as well, but
And
even an IT person.
I think the results speak for themselves because this has been up and running. It's been reliable and bulletproof. They've already expanded on it, so it's growing and it's scalable. And I think the other thing that I can't stress enough is you've empowered the staff with training so that they can handle this on their own. And it's a system that can be fully, although video seems threatening, with the right gear and the right knowledge, the problem is solved. And NETGEAR has solved the problem better than anyone else.
Yeah, we're trying. Again, we're listening to the people to figure out where we can help the most. And that's really where it comes into play. Like, we certainly want to sell switches and software, of course, but we want to make sure that people are empowered to do this on their own and can do this multiple times, because that's where the key growth comes from, is just people feeling good about what they do and being able to do this on their own.
I think it's a level of confidence. If you're looking to get into AV over IP and you're starting, you want to have the confidence that you're working with the right gear and the right people. NETGEAR is, but also if you've got a system that you're using and you're going to expand it or replace it, the same holds true. And once again, we're not saying that other more expensive switches can't do the job. It's just they're a lot harder to configure and keep configured. They're easily, from a video over IP portion, very easy for someone to do something that they think won't have any effect that can totally, screw us up, with auto discovery and some of the other stuff that's out there. So once again, future ready. I don't want to call it future proof, but I want to call it future ready and confident. We are confident that this is the right tool for the job in your switches. So let's get into a little bit about those pro services you guys offer, because I think for schools it's so important.
Oh yeah, and this is something we offer for free, like you say. I mean, we'll see what happens as we start scaling up and up and up, but this is what we realized early on. Again, we want to empower people to be able to do this on their own. And for AV people specifically who are new to networking, they weren't always sure of that. But also, as we mentioned here, there's the wireless design as well. We talked about wireless access points. One of the things we do for free is give you a heat map across your facility, whether it's a single building, multiple buildings. You give us some data about those buildings. We'll tell you the best placement for the access points to get the optimal coverage at each band, because now we have 3 bands of wireless. So we'll make sure that we help you with where to place those, make sure you get the coverage. But to your network design is where we started with this, with the Pro AV network design. We'll figure out what switches are the right switches that you need. We'll design your network and we'll help you pull it off. And we'll work with you, whether it's nights or weekends. This team is incredible and always expanding. It's a worldwide service, by the way. So we're not just US based, but it's a team of people who really will help you. They understand the predicament, and they're really qualified IT people, high level system engineers but they also now have been working with AV for a number of years, and they deal with hundreds of projects. So they know the situation you're in has probably been done by somebody else before, and they can offer some tips and tricks how to make it work better.
And now let's dig into NETGEAR Academy. I mean, you've got your own certifications and Avixa certifications with
Yep.
Pro AV. I mean, I think that's so great. And just keep up the good job with this. I really feel that in the world of education, certifications matter. I mean, we all want our degrees, we all want our diplomas and stuff like that. But I also want to stress that this is a growing industry. If you are a high school or a college offering courses in IT and specifically AV over IP, will have graduates who come out with a real marketable skill that a lot of people don't have. So if you are looking to do this pro AV stuff, this pro video stuff, I encourage you, involve your students, give them the opportunity to be a part of it, and even better, give them the opportunity to be certified when they graduate from your program with these certifications. It's a confidence builder for the kid, but it also, we need people who can do this stuff. I mean,
Mhm.
pro AV and pro video is growing faster than the amount of people we have. And John, you and I joke about it. We have from the beginning. You know, most of the people in our industry look like guys like us. We're wearing glasses. We might have hair. It's a lot of gray. And this world of AV over IP is a young man's game. And it's for these young
Absolutely.
girls and boys to get involved with, you know, to learn about a whole industry that's there. But it's a real marketable skill. I know we have often some of our dealers will be calling us saying, you know, I lost my AV, you know, my guy who knew this, he went over to someone else. And it's why? Because he's getting paid more from the next
Yeah.
guy. So there's always jobs. There's entry level jobs. There's jobs working for dealers who do this and design the stuff. There's for schools that put it in the corporate world. It's a real,
It's everywhere.
part of what I'm trying to infuse EduStream with is that it's not just about using our products to create content. It's about teaching your kids how to use and learn and become certified in our products because it's a real career opportunity. We've done some shows on that as well. I know I hijacked this one a little bit, but I know our guys just passed one of the NETGEAR trainings, so we were really psyched about that, and they were proud, and we were proud of them. And it's a good solid training, but it's not like a gotcha training where it's like, you know, we showed you a blue dot, you know, where was it? It's really about using the gear.
Well, and it's also not just about Netgear's gear. We have some great courses on just like what's a VLAN, you know, some straight ahead normal networking questions. So it isn't just, oh, I have my Netgear certification. That's big as well, but it's generally you learn more about the industry in general. So that's worth it.
Cool. So I want to take you off script a little bit because we're a little bit ahead of time and I want to give you the full half hour. Why not? So
Cool.
where do you see this going? Do you see these AV over IP formats like merging into one great format to save them all? Or do you just see companies like NETGEAR being so open and so good that you just make everyone else's stuff work as long as they're giving you some kind of spec, some kind of developer toolkit?
Yeah, it's the latter, certainly. I think in this world, the good thing is that people are adhering to an Ethernet specification. So switches like Netgear's, but other manufacturers' switches will work as well. There are other things in the past like HD-base-T that was only point to point, whereas IP is ubiquitous across. It's an Ethernet standard. We'll see
Yep.
more of that. As far as like determining who's going to win, there's still a battle for a standard like IPMX or SDVOE or whatever. Those are still going to be developed and still be used in their proper application. You know, there are times where you want that high quality, low latency stream, and that's important as well. And there are times where you don't need that. And you can do NDI with low latency, but it still gives great signal quality, very flexible. So I think all those kind of standards will be living on for sure.
And to tie into EduStream, one of the things I want to tie together is we've used the term Pro AV and Pro Video. So I want to define it a little better. Pro AV, that's your conference rooms and your unified communications and stuff like that, and even a Zoom or a Teams call, whereas Pro Video is more where you're doing your lecture captures or you have a studio or you're producing sporting events. And the whole point I want to make here is that through AV over IP, it's the same set, same network that can run everything. I don't have to wire separately. So that means if I'm doing a pro something in the studio and I've got people in a conference room, I could bring that footage into there. If I've got people in the conference room, I can bring them in as a guest into something in the studio. I could be sports that are out in the field, in the stadium. It's all that same technology that ties everything together. And the technology is the broad umbrella of AV over IP, but the different formats that are there are really amazing. And what I'm going to say is, when you look at NDI, Dante, and SRT with those three, there's virtually nothing an educator can't do at that point.
No, you're done. If you learn anything about those, they all have their unique setup things, and they have unique vendors for all that stuff, and they're all have some good pluses and minuses for sure. But in general, learning about networking is where you got to start, and that's where we realized everything was being used of our product line being used in AV over IP, and thankfully it's all just Ethernet to us. But with that said, there are certain things we did on our side to make it easier to implement, and like I mentioned earlier, not flood the network, things like that. So that's where it's going to come down to, having people understand networking in general, because that's going to be the basis for everything you're doing from here on out.
So, John, anytime I have a guest on, I like to give them the last word. I think you just did that phenomenally. So I'm going to throw the last word and stress again for everyone who's getting into AV over IP, NDI, NETGEAR AV switches are our #1 recommendation, not only because they work great, you'll have less tech support, they are expandable, they are scalable, they are future-minded, they are reliable, and they are affordable. So did I miss anything about NETGEAR AV switches?
You got it, man. You're working for us now. You've got the job. You're in.
I thank you for coming to the show. I think we did a great show. And just as my wrap up is that I want to stress that networking of AV over video isn't just something you need to do for your university or your school system in order to produce video, but it's also a great thing to teach your kids about, so that they can have a skill set and some knowledge for something that even if they just know a little bit, but there is certifications available if they want to. John, great show. I knew it was going to be. We're about the half-hour wrap-up. I want to remind everyone we've got prizes and giveaways and all kinds of good stuff through EduStream. Keep tuning in. Multiple days, great chances to win prizes. April 22nd through the 24th. If you missed any of the shows, they'll be available for download on demand. Thank you so much, John. Great show.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Big thanks to John Henkel for joining us and talking about how you can incorporate AV over IP with their M4250 and M4350 line of network switches. He also briefly talked about the wireless access points that are now available. As NDI is constantly evolving, it is great to see that they are evolving with it and keeping up with the pace. You'll want to stick around for tomorrow, because we actually did an interview with Cameron Boyce from Bird Dog talking about their wireless NDI PTZ cameras. So it's great to see that NETGEAR is also making wireless access points specifically designed for AV over IP. One of the things that I saw in the chat is some people were asking about the classes that you can take. And yes, both the VizU classes are available, which I saw somebody put in a link to that, which is great. And then also NETGEAR has NETGEAR Academy. I've taken both the Viz University classes, and I've also taken the NETGEAR Academy classes as well. And these are very informative videos that give you, the tools that you need to make a media lab at the end of the day. And they are free for students and academic reasons. NETGEAR Academy is actually available to anybody for free. So I highly recommend that you check out both Viz University and NETGEAR Academy. Great resources, great classes, and they're very well done. There's lots of animation, and it's not just a talking head, so I can't recommend it enough. Now, we talked about media labs, building media labs. We talked with Chris Burgos about the equipment that you may need for a media lab, and we talked about the networking that is required for an AV over IP media lab. And next, I want to introduce you to Matt Drabeck, who is one of the local integrators that we have talked to, and he has a lot of familiarity with installing TriCasters and NETGEAR M4250 switches into school districts. So we thought that this would be a perfect person to talk about today. So let's play that interview that we did with Matt Drabick.
Hey, this is Jim with EduStreamTV. Thanks for joining us. One of my favorite things to do on the EduStreamTV segments is to talk to some of our system integrators and installers who are working with schools for your education needs. Whether it's a live production studio in your building, whether it's using live streaming and production to augment some of the other classes happening in the school, or just using technology as part of the classroom environment, our integrators throughout the country can help benefit with all of them. And one of them is Matt Drabick at Digitech. Hey, Matt, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Jim, how you doing?
Doing excellent. If you could take a moment, please, and introduce yourself and Digitech to our EduStream community.
Absolutely. Digitech System, I've been doing business for almost 25 years. Primarily now we sell video switching and streaming systems. So video switchers, TriCasters, a lot of PTZ cameras from different manufacturers, things like that. Sell a lot into the school market, sell a lot to schools. We can do it all. We can do design, we can do installation, we can provide training, etc. So we can offer a turnkey package. That doesn't have to be that way, but school wants a system be designed, we can help them with that. If they just want to buy certain pieces of technology, we can do that as well.
That's excellent. Matt, I understand you're in North Carolina, right?
Exactly, Raleigh, North Carolina area. Yeah.
So does your business focus primarily in that part of the country, or do you branch out and expand your reach?
Yeah, I mean, basically it's North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, maybe part of Tennessee as well. Regional, I guess, is probably a good term. We're not really, I'd call national, but I have customers all over. I've sold systems to all 50 states, that kind of thing. So we can work with people that are just not necessarily right in our backyard.
Excellent. And one of the big reasons I was looking forward to talking to you is I know that you've had experience with live production systems at kind of every level of the marketplace.
Exactly.
I know you are a big reseller of the Vizrt TriCaster systems, formerly NewTek, but you've also one of our first integrators to really adapt the Yellow Live Yellow box as an integration solution for this marketplace. Can you tell us a little bit about the different products you offer and what kind of schools they would fit into along the way?
Right. Well, we've been selling TriCaster forever since it first came out, which was 05 with the original little 3-input model. Enjoyed selling that. That was a good product. And of course, over the years, the system has evolved into bigger and better and that kind of thing. And as great as the TriCaster is, the least expensive TriCaster is $5,000 for a Mini Go.
Right.
So we were always on the outlook for something that was a little bit more affordable, but did a lot of the same things. Maybe not everything, but a lot. And so we've been looking around. Eventually, we came across Yellow Live. We looked at the Ultra Box. Really liked that. We brought one in right over the Yellow Box Ultra. We brought one of those in and worked with it. Really like it. 4 HDMI's in, 1 out. Works with NDI. Works with USB sources, meaning you can plug in a webcam, etc. You can switch with it. You can record and you can stream. And it's under $1,500. It has a touchscreen built into it, so the monitor's built in. You don't have to have a separate monitor to make it work. It's touchscreen, so you can operate it that way. It has a battery. Great product. A lot of customers said we like it, but we want something a little bit bigger. We need a bigger monitor. We need more input. So guess what? They got the Yellow Box Extreme, and it's got 8 HDMI inputs, and it's about, I can't remember, 11-inch display, something like that.
Yep.
Same concept, pretty much offers the same things in terms of functionality, but has more inputs, more outputs, and it's right under $2,000. To my way of thinking, these are the perfect solutions for going into elementary school, to start teaching production, middle school as well, of course. Very affordable. You could use this in a studio type setting, but you could also take it out in the field. You can literally just grab one of these, take a webcam and plug it in, and go outdoors and shoot video if you want to. It'll power the webcam if you want. You can operate that way. Obviously, you can use traditional cameras if you want to, a camcorder, and plug it in that way. But it's a very, very nice system, and we've had some success selling it, and I'm sure we'll start selling a lot more of them in the future. But just a really good product. Really happy to see something like this come along.
Absolutely. And we can't downplay the fact that it's based on an Android tablet. So you
Exactly.
talked about the
Exactly.
elementary marketplace. What
Right.
elementary school age kid do you know that you don't put a tablet in their hand and they can't
Exactly.
start poking around and figuring out how to do it?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
the classrooms who are looking to empower the students in getting started in these live production tools,
Right.
YellowBots Ultra, YellowBots Extreme is a great tool to help get them going.
Absolutely.
If you're looking to empower your students with the tools that are being used in the venues across the country, in the broadcast AV marketplace, that's one of the big compelling reasons that we start getting into the TriCaster family of
Exactly.
products.
Agreed. Agreed.
And
Agreed.
Matt, from what I understand, Digitech not only sells the TriCaster systems, integrates it in the workflow,
Right.
you
Right.
offer support and
Yep.
training and even
Right.
repair of these systems over the years as
Exactly.
needed, right?
Exactly. Yeah. We can do everything. We can do the training ourselves. I have people that I can hire, like down in the Charlotte area, where I do a lot of business. We sell a lot of TriCasters to the Charlotte Mecklenburg school system down there. They have a need for training. The person that used to work there and provided that left. We had a conversation not too long ago about their need for training. So I said, hey, I've got a guy in the Charlotte area that can provide that. So now we've got that arranged. And so we helped them out with that situation. The TriCaster is a great product. It has more features and capabilities than, say, the yellow boxes.
Yep.
It's more of a traditional video production tool. In my opinion, it's an easy system to work with, and it emulates how television production is done. I'm a pretty old guy at this point. I worked in television, live TV back in the late 70s and 80s. And I remember going into TV studios and stations, and they have a gigantic Ampex switcher or a Grass Valley switcher, and obviously that's a physical switcher, but the software interface of a TriCaster mimics that kind of environment. And even to this day, production switchers work that way. So the TriCaster is a really good product. Really like it. Very fully featured. Has a lot of capability. It's simple enough that someone just starting up can figure it out and get into it. But then if you start digging in, you find there's a lot of features and a lot of capabilities in there, say macros. You can just sit there and you can basically program how the system is going to operate, hit a button, and it does that, right? So that's a really, really powerful feature of the TriCaster. I mean, it does a lot. I mean, it's not just limited to that, but it's a lot of capability. So that's our other switcher that we generally just sell to schools, because it meets certain price point. It offers a lot of features and a lot of capabilities.
And Matt, I know you mentioned the Charlotte Mecklenburg schools. Before we talk a little bit more about those, because I do want to talk about them, it's
Sure.
important for our audience to know that you are participating in a lot of local area trade shows. You're
Yeah.
out there taking every opportunity you can to demo some of these different systems and the solutions. So for
Right.
schools that are looking for their next technology advancement, that's one of the benefits of working with a company like Digitech Systems,
Right.
is that you can get on the phone with Matt and his team, and they can
Yeah.
help steer you in the right direction, demo the right product, but talk about how it
Exactly.
fits into your school and into your environment, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I'm old school. I like to talk on the phone with people. I'm very comfortable doing that. I don't get to do it as often as I like to, but
It's a dying art, Matt.
it's a dying art, and most people don't pick up their phone and call you anymore. But when they do, I'm more than happy to talk. We recently participated in a technology exhibition here in Raleigh, downtown Raleigh. It's called NC Ties, which stands for NC, or North Carolina Technology and Education Society. It's the first time I've done an event with them. We rented a booth, again, first week of March, and we were down there with the Yellow Box Ultra. The Extreme wasn't out then. Had that up and running. We also had a TriCaster Mini S software system running on a laptop, and that's also a really cool system. literally TriCaster software that you can install on a laptop like we've done, or on a desktop computer, just depending what you need to do. And the great thing about that show is you met lots and lots of people from all throughout the state, from different schools, all grade levels, etc. And even met the head of I guess, technology, if you will, for Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools for the first time. And that was a really good connection to actually meet him in person. So by being at that show, we were able to do that. And there are other events like that throughout, but that was the first one we've done in a while. And again, really good show. NC Ties. We'll probably do it again next year when they do it.
Great. And I know the way the conversation always starts is, hey, Matt, what do I need to get started in live production? How can I take advantage of this technology in the school? And one of the best ways to find the answers to the questions is to learn from what other schools and districts throughout the country are doing.
Exactly.
Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with the Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools?
Basically, my relationship with Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools probably started around 15 years ago. When I was a little bit younger, I used to hop in my car and drive a lot and go do demos at different venues and events. So I drove down to Charlotte, probably 09, 2010, something like that. I went to Queen's University. I had a contact down there that would let me come down once a year and demo the current TriCaster, which I think was back then was either the studio or the broadcast. And while I was down there, this guy named Brett Hardis showed up. He was there to see the TriCaster. He liked it. He saw it. And he works for Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools, and he came out to see the TriCaster. And that started my relationship with selling TriCasters to CMS. And we've been doing that ever since. There's about 190 schools, I think, with the CMS system district. I think they have TriCasters in maybe 140 schools.
Wow.
Some of them are getting a little bit old. They got some of the TriCaster 40 still, but lately it's obviously the TriCaster Mini current line. But they like the TriCaster. It fits the price point and what they need to be doing. Like I say, we sell them the mini models, primarily the TriCaster Mini 4K. And I believe the reason they go with the Mini 4K is because of how the networking is set up. They're doing it via NDI, Cisco network. It's a one drop in the classroom kind of environment. So you plug the Mini 4K in there, and then all the cameras will be seen through the TriCaster. I did recently sell them a couple of TriCaster Mini Go's. So I'll be waiting to hear how that goes for them as well. I mean, it is a more affordable TriCaster, quite honestly, and still very capable. Has a lot of the same feature set as more expensive models, same interface basically as well. So a great solution, great product. And just to throw out brands and names, whatever, we really like Bird Dog cameras too. Bird Dog has sort of come back from the precipice, if you will. Won't go into that, but they're coming out with some brand new cameras, the X1s, the X4s. Really love them. We've been selling X1s to Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools and other people under $1,000 for a NDI camera, 20x zoom. Really good, really good camera. Really happy to be selling that as well. So I don't know if I've answered your question, but
you absolutely did. And some of the things that I've heard in that too is you're obviously talking about the TriCaster systems. You talked about the Bird Dog cameras, and you mentioned NDI. So it sounds like you are getting involved in some of these AV over IP installations.
Oh yeah.
And that benefits this marketplace in education a lot, especially when you have so many schools within that network like CMS does, or when you have so many classrooms even within the building. To tie them all across the network gives you a lot of different capabilities, right?
Exactly. Yeah, they literally, TriCasters used in different scenarios with CMS. Obviously, they had them in studio settings so that you can have like a morning report or a morning show, static, if you will. They're using them for sports production. There's more to come, I think, with that, but they're used for sports production. But like a really neat application is it will literally have a camera on a cart with audio mixer, microphones, whatever. And they can roll that around, and since it's NDI, they can roll into a room and plug the camera into the internet connection or the network connection in that room. It's online, and it's available as a source where the TriCaster might be in the building. So that's a really, really neat capability with NDI. The fact that it can send power to the camera, it can send control to the camera, and it can bring back the video and the audio from the camera to wherever it needs to go on the network. So that NDI is a great thing. It works really well. So obviously,
And Matt, can I ask, when you're working in these AV over IP environments, are you working with the IT teams in the school, or are you separating a separate network for your installation and for the productions across the building?
with CMS, the network's already been built into the. It's already built in. It's a Cisco
Okay.
network. They don't change that. So basically,
Beautiful.
I'm providing equipment to basically the AV department, if you want to call it that, for the
Yep.
school. They have an installer, Chris Moore, that goes out and does that for all the various schools. So he's very up on the technology, knows how it works. But in that particular situation with CMS, given that they work with Cisco, we're not going in and putting in a switch, like a
Okay.
NETGEAR switch. It's just plugging into that one connection in the room.
Excellent. And that's, a perfect segue. And what I wanted to ask you about next is some of the different trends and technology that we're seeing in the education space. And I know one of them has been the conversations with the IT teams to figure out how to get the AV on the network and to take
Right.
advantage of the robust infrastructures that a lot of schools already have in place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's where NDI makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
You already got the networking built into the building. It's just a matter of plugging in the camera, the TriCaster into the network, and it shows up, and away you go. You don't have to do long cable drops. The various pictures I'd sent over last night, you can see where there's TriCaster 40s, which are analog inputs.
Yep.
Much messier installation, a lot more cables, if you will. Whereas in the NDI setups, it's a little bit more of a neat, less cluttered setup. Doesn't really matter. It still gets the job done, right?
Yep.
But it just makes things a little bit easier, I think, when you can just run a network cable that does everything, carries the power, think about it. You don't have to worry about having an AC outlet where the camera is.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
That's the beauty of NDI. You can just put the camera where it needs to be, run your Cat6 cable over to it, plug it in, you're good to go. So it makes operating and setting up a lot easier.
That's great. So Matt, I have to ask you, we talked about the yellow box as really just an entry level, kind of really affordable solution, Android-based tablet. We talked about the TriCaster Mini and the systems that allow you to get into that TriCaster production interface at still a very low entry, very affordable systems. With your experience with the TriCaster systems, I have to take a moment and ask you about the new Vizrt TriCaster Vision. TriCaster Vision is kind of the newest flagship throughout the product line, and they're adding a ton of capabilities and integration with HTML graphics like Flowits and some of these higher-end production tools. You're starting to see some of those being requested and put onto quotes in some of these schools as well now, right?
Exactly. In situations where maybe we're still going to be running SDI cabling for say a stadium or coliseum for sports, right? I'm actually working on a car right now for a school down in Alabama. They're going to be opening up a new academy, if you will, and minimum of 12 cameras running into the switcher. So the Vision 16 was the obvious choice for that. So that's what I'm quoting. That'd be my first sale, quite honestly, with the Vision. But I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, I've got the sale.
That's one of the big benefits of the TriCaster systems is whether it's a Vision, whether it's a TC1, whether it's a TriCaster Mini, it really is pairing the right box that's needed in the school and that's needed in the application. And there is the right product along the way. And that's why working with an experienced integrator like Digitech Systems can really be beneficial in the process of getting the most out of the investment. Matt, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Jim. I really appreciate it. It's been good. Enjoyed it.
And we appreciate it too. If you have any questions about any of the TriCaster systems, the Yellow Live systems, any of the live production and streaming needs for your school, you can reach out to Matt and his team at Digitech Systems at 919-790-5488. Or go to digitechsys.com. Or you can enter the chat, ask us your questions, and we will make sure we get them forwarded to you. And your phone might even ring with a phone call from Matt because
You
that's
never
how he
know.
likes to do it, right?
You never know.
Matt, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate you. Have a great day.
You too.
Big thanks to Matt Drabick for joining us and talking about his installations across multiple school districts, excuse me. So again, thank you for Matt Drabick for joining us. That is everything that we wanted to discuss today. We hope that you learned a lot of great information on building out your media lab, and we have some more exciting content coming for you tomorrow. We're going to be discussing Bird Dog, like I said earlier, talking about their new X series of cameras. We had Judy from Killaview join us to talk about their AV over IP solutions with their encoders and decoders and their distribution systems. We're doing a talk with Peyton from Panasonic talking about Kairos and Remy Productions. And then we have another system integrator, Future Grade, with Austin James Smith, joining us to talk about his use specifically with Panasonic PTZ cameras and their box cameras. And then we are going to be ending the show tomorrow with a live Q&A. So if you have any questions that didn't get answered yesterday, today, or tomorrow, please put into the chat your questions and we will answer them live. And that is also when we will announce our prizes. So definitely don't want to miss out on tomorrow. So this has been EduStream Day 2, empowering students in media production departments. And we will see you tomorrow, same time, same place at 3 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for joining us today. We'll talk to you tomorrow.